My name is Ramona Hatten. I am a social worker assistant for the Little Sisters of the Poor. I've lived in Alexandria for over 30 years. What do I find special about Alexandria? Well, I think it's a small knit city whereby you get to know people who live within the surrounding areas, and you get to know what they do, what they represent, and how they interact within the city of Alexandria. My passion has to do with those who are low income, those who are middle income. Really, the income basis is just not the sole reason. It has to do with people who need help. It has to do with people who need direction. It has to do with people who need assistance. I have always, ever since I was a little girl and a young lady, had the desire to help others. I've always worked in a people capacity. I've always reached out to others. I've always had this inner drive to want to help people, and I'm just really blessed and very fortunate that I am able to walk into that calling which I feel that God has given me. When I look at individuals who felt intimidated, who felt afraid, who felt that they really didn't have a voice, that's what really gave me the urge and the dynamics and the energy to speak up and represent those who felt that they could not represent themselves. Our residence, which was the Alexandria Redevelopment and Housing Authority, where I served as commissioner for about 7 years or more. Getting representation on that board, initially when we started out, that board had been in place for years with no resident representation. So essentially you had people who have lived in this city, who served in many different capacities, who were making decisions about the individuals who lived in those developments. I thought it was essential that we rally before City Council to get resident representation on that board. We were very successful. We came, I made my argument, and the City Council then made an amendment to add a resident representation on the RHAR board. I thought that that was just, really a great accomplishment, particularly for the residents living in the public housing sector. The advice that I would give others who want to make a positive difference is, first, I think it's essentially important that you care. Second, I think you have to be willing to give of yourself. And it's a lot of sacrificing. It's a lot of time that you're away from home. It's a lot of time that you will not be able to be with your family because you're assisting, you're helping, you're motivating, you're empowering people to enrich them, to become knowledge of who they are and where they'd like to go and how it is important to be the person that they need to be. And thirdly, I think you have to have a strong passion and a drive. You have to really have that inner calling to say, you know what, no matter what happens, no matter how this turns out, I'm going to stay here to the end. And I think those are the things that any individual who wants to make a positive difference in the city of Alexandria or any other city, those are the key components I feel that are essential for that individual to have. There are many things that we accomplished. There are many things that I think were positive attributes as a result of us working, or as a result of myself working with the residents in public housing. I could probably name many, but I'll try to name one in particular that I thought was very influential. And that was allowing residents to be trained so that they could take back their community. We linked up with the Alexandria Police Department. We had residents trained, and we made block captains, we made site representatives, and during a time that there was a massive drug problem in the public housing sector located on North Alfred Street, the residents set out. They decided, we're going to take back our community. I think that was the most strongest evidence of a resident participation that could ever be. And that example then trickled down to other cities and other developments of public housing where the residents decided, you know, we're not going to take this anymore. You're not going to be able to come into our community and invade our community with drugs. We're going to stand up against this. And they set out every Friday night. We had the police presence there, we had residents there, we had other community members there, we had ministers there, we had choirs there. Everyone wanted to be a part of this action whereby the residents declared, we're taking back our community. And that in itself, I think, was just very instrumental of a model that then replicated in other communities. As a result of the residents setting out and taking back their community, it prompted the president, which at that time was George W. Bush, to come to the city of Alexandria. And that was just extraordinary because I don't believe in any city that something done by the residents trickled a president to come by and do a visit with those residents. I think that that's something that will go down in history for a very, very long time. I think it was just extraordinary for the presidents to see the importance. I mean, what president you know sees the importance of saying, you know what, my agenda is just too busy, but I've decided that I want to come and be a part of a small group of people in the city of Alexandria who reside in public housing, who decide to take their community back. Who takes the time to do that? Who takes the time to recognize people of this caliber? Who does that? So that within itself, I think, was extraordinary, and I think it was just instrumental to say that regardless of where you are, regardless of where you live, regardless of who you are, your works, what you've done, will be recognized. I think the results have kept going in different ways, and as you approach, 2014, I think what has happened, or what had happened during that time, have enabled people to become extremely strong, very confident, very assuring to say, you know what, I can make a difference. Together we can accomplish many things. It's not based on where I live. It's not based on how I'm labeled by society. A lot of times you're labeled by society based on where you live. And I think that's a prime example of, or it showed that it's not where you live, it's what you feel that you can do. And with drive, ambition, tenacity, just strong strength going forth, you can accomplish anything regardless of where you are and where you live. And I think that made a statement within itself. I don't think you can really put a dollar amount on that. I really don't. Because here are people who resided in a particular community, and they decided, no one else, they decided, we can turn this around. We're going to do what we need to make a difference in where we live. Yes, there is a young man whose mom contacted me. She resides in the city of Alexandria. Her son is extremely handicapped. He lives in her housing, and I believe it's the LaDre high-rise building. and he needs to have accommodations in his unit where he lives that would assist him because of the severity of his disability. And he has been requesting various things from the Housing Authority in order to get this in place, and it has been an ongoing battle for him. So I have been assisting him. I attended a meeting initially that was set up by the Housing Authority to assist him to get some of those things in place. So we are working to try to get those things rectified. I did speak with his mom recently, as a matter of fact, as of last week, and she was saying that she was still waiting for them to get back to her, that they had met. Some of the things were done, but some of the things had not been completed. I will be in contact with her again in the next 2 weeks to see how that we can reconnect and hopefully rectify the things that have not been done. It is extremely difficult for people with disabilities to be able to vocalize a lot of time their issues or their concerns. A lot of times people think that because you have a disability that you're not knowledgeable. Sometimes people think that you are not going to speak up or say anything. And I think that that's just really a bad illusion on others because we're all humans. We all want to be treated fairly, regardless of our race, color, skin, or disability. And I think it is extremely important when you are in a service capacity to reach out, particularly to those individuals who have a disability. The individuals in the community where they lived, their need, their emotion that represented this kind of phase of I don't know what to do, I'm really afraid, I'm really intimidated, we really need help. Those are the kinds of things that really motivated me, seeing the children respond when positive things were put in place in the developments, the playgrounds, having the Alexandria Recreation Center, which we lobbied because one of the developments did not have access to recreational equipment, and they brought the activities and things down to that particular development. I thought that was just fantastic because, again, you're reaching out, you're trying to help in whatever capacity that you can, and there was a definite need. And so you want to meet the need. What I found to be one of the greatest challenges was keeping people inspired so that they would not give up, so they would feel like, I don't think anything is going to change. I don't think anything is going to happen. What is the outcome going to be? Because a lot of time you don't always get fast results. Things don't always change overnight. Things are not always immediate. And so sometimes you've got to hold on until the change does occur. So basically, trying to keep people inspired, trying to keep people positive, and just to let them know and reassure them, we're going to be here with you, we're here for you, and we're going to try to put everything in place we can to assist you in this capacity or to assist you in whatever need or needs that you may have. To be quite honest with you, the calling for which I feel God has called me to do, that really has kept me going. The inspiring words of other people, motivation, looking at the children's faces, smile. We were able to get a daycare center in one of the developments located near the waterfront, which is known as the Berg. And then people were able to actually bring their children there. They didn't have to go far. The daycare center was developed right there within the public housing resident complex. I thought that that was a big positive. People were able to see a change right where they lived. They were able to be a part of the change. And something even more importantly, residents were able to be hired So it was like we're not neglected. We are considered to make a positive difference in our own community, and we can be a part of that. And I thought that was excellent. I would like to be remembered as someone who is God-fearing, caring, loving, patient, willing to give myself to others. I think that that is extremely important because we all live in a society where people are busy, people have their own personal agendas, people have things that they want to accomplish, they have goals that they live in and live out day to day. But I think it's the special people, the people that God have called for special purposes on this earth, when you can say, you know, for over 30 years, you have dedicated your life to others. And this is my motto. If I can help someone along the way, then my living is not in vain. Where you live and your economic status and how you're viewed, and it's generally known there are not many people who care about poor people. There are not many people who are going to lobby for poor people. There are not many people who are going to speak up for poor people. It's only those people that I feel that have a special calling and a special, I'm going to say, aurora from God to say, you know what, I'm going to link up with these individuals because I feel I'm called to do this. I'm called to make a difference. I'm called to speak up. I'm called to help. I'm called to assist. I can encourage them. I can be beside them. I can say, you can go down to the board of ARHAR commissioners and you can speak. You've been having problems in your unit for X amount of weeks and you felt like nothing was done. Well, here is an organization that's here for you. You need to utilize that organization. You need to be able to express your comments, your points, your opinion, how you feel. It, to me, is just amazing how other people make decisions for people who are in a lower class. Why not link up with the lower class people and combine them with the other people who are making the decisions so that you firsthand know how they feel, what they want, what they're looking for. And to be honest with you, there's no difference. Because if you cut my hand, there is blood. It has no correlation to what color you are. It has everything to do with who you are. And I think that if people in this society begin to capitulate and grab hold to that philosophy, we would have a better society. We would have a better community. We would have a better country if people would just not judge you by your outer and where you live and where you came from. We had so many young ladies who were very inspired as a result of the drug elimination grants that Housing and Urban Development put out. They were able to get jobs. They were able to go back and to go to school. They were able to have a different light in terms of what they wanted to do in life. And more importantly, it went to great horizons where you could actually own and become a homeowner. You know, that you didn't have to reside in public housing your entire life, but that could branch out in something bigger and greater, and that you were able to work, and the monies that you were able to work, there was certain programs that what you put down, that certain percentage would be equated to you becoming a homeowner. And I think that's what America should be about. How do we build people? How do we start out with a small group that we encourage them to a mass group, that out of that mass group you have strong, confident, wonderful individuals who, for some reason or not, had no control over their economic status, but you provided the means and the ways where they could make a difference. And then some of those individuals benefited from the things that were put in place so that they could make a difference. The advice that I would give others who would want to make a positive difference is, first, I think you really have to care about the people and their surroundings. I think you have to be willing to give of yourself. And not everyone is willing to give of themselves. A lot of people are like, I'm too busy. That's their problem. They have to figure it out. Well, the government gives too much already. I don't think that they really need to give any more. That's just not what I'm interested in. Let's just put them all together and they just figure it out on their own. And I don't think that's the right attitude to think. I think we are our brother's keepers. And I think what we put and what we give to others is somehow, some way, going to filter back to us. And I think it's also important to have a passion for the people that you are serving or assisting. Whatever the measure or whatever the cause may be, you inherently have to have that passion. No one can give you that. It has to already be in you. So in my lifetime, I've had the opportunity to have the passion and the drive for people. When I saw people who could not speak for themselves, it bothered me. When I saw children who could not communicate in a sentence, it bothered me. When I saw senior citizens who could not pay their rent because they were on a fixed income, it bothered me. I could not shake it. I could not turn my head. I could not pretend like it wasn't happening. I somehow felt that I had to be that advocate. I had to be the person to stand up for these people. I had to be and today, it's still a part of me. It has never left me. If I go into a store, if I go into a meeting, if I go into a reception, if I go into a party, if I go into a restaurant, it does not matter the capacity, and I see something that I know is apparently wrong, I most definitely, I'm going to say something. I'm going to voice my opinion. I'm going to ask for the manager. I'm going to say, I don't think that this is fair. Let's see how we can come to a solid resolution that will be positive for both individuals. We have to be fair. We have to be fair. And some people will say, well, Ramona, no, I don't have to be fair. Well, you may think that you don't have to be fair, but you really do. Because what you give and what seeds you plant in this life, regardless of the occupation you're in, regardless of the lifestyle that you live, that seed is going to come back to you. And it may be positive and it may be negative. But what depends on how the seed comes back to you is, what did you sow? What did you sow? And I try to say that everywhere I go. If I have to speak at an engagement, if I have to give remarks or a word, what did you sow? Did you pretend like it wasn't there? Did you ignore it? Did you place judgment on it? Or did you say as an individual, well, I may not know much about it, but I'd like to find out, I'd like to inquire, because I'd like to be one of those persons to make a difference. I'm not going to ignore this. I'm not going to ignore that there are things happening and I really have the power to do something or have the power to change it. But I'm just right now going to ignore it because I just don't feel like I'm one of those individuals. What happens if everybody takes that attitude? Then we don't really have anybody giving. We really don't have anybody denying their self. We only have people only concentrating on themselves. And that's not what we were created to do. We were created to help one another and to be our brother's keepers. And if we can establish or adopt that in some capacity, it doesn't have to be in the capacity of someone else, but just a singe, just a singe of what you could do or what you could say to help someone. You may say, well, you know, I'm not able to do that. I'm not the best speaker. I'm not the best helper. But guess what? You could always send someone a letter. You could always give someone a call. You could always provide something for someone that you really know that they need and give that to them, because you're saying, you know what, I'm really not a forefront person, because some people like to work in the back. Not everybody likes to come to the front, you know, but in essence, you know, guess what? When that person picks up that card, you're like, man, I can't believe you mean to tell me that Mr. Smith took the time to go to the library because someone shared with him that I liked this book by Maya Angelou. You know, those are just small things that you can do. And truly, I've been inspired, very inspired, and something that happened to me recently. When when someone contacted me and said, Ramona, I understand that you've been selected as one of the Living Legends. I am just honored. And the person began to tell me how much they admired me, how much they watched me every day when I walked to the metro, and I was just astounded. First, I didn't know that they were watching me. Secondly, I didn't know that they were paying that close attention. And as I continued to have the conversation with the young lady who resides in the city of Alexandria, her family resides in the city and been living here a very long time, she further goes on to tell me about another young lady who lived right in front of me. And she said to me, Ramona, this young lady considers you as one of her best mentors. I never had a one-on-one conversation with her. I never went out to lunch with her. I never went to the store with her. She only observed my life and the work that I had done, and said to the other young lady, she has been my mentor for so many years. And what's so astounding about this young lady is she's a recipient of public housing who now works at Homeland Security as one of the top executives. That I will never forget. It will always stay close to my heart. And to me, when I think about living legends, I feel that that's a perfect example of a living legend, someone who admires someone else and has watched, adopted, observed their life, and has said personally, that person is my mentor. So I'm happy that I have been available. I am happy that I have given of myself to help others. Originally came here from Lynchburg, Virginia. I have one sister. I attended the Alexandria City Public Schools. My mom and my mother's family was very large, very extensive. So I had a lot of cousins that we grew up with as well. One of the most extraordinary things that I found during my childhood is the caring component of the senior citizens who resided where we lived. They really cared about the children. They really cared about families. I think families are very important, and I really think that we need to go back to the old way of how we view families and how it was during that time, because I felt that it was much more close-knit than what it is today. And I think that the senior citizens, the people who lived adjacent to you, were there for you. They really cared about you. They were concerned about everything that happened to you. And people just cared more about people in general. They reached out. If you needed a ride to the store, they were there for you. If they could assist you in any capacity, they would. I remember one of my neighbors, and she's still living today. She's a senior, and she would pick my sister and I up and take us out down the street to community activity, which involved other younger children during that time. And those are the kinds of things that I remember. Everybody coming together in their community, people laughing, people smiling, people having good times, people having barbecues, people joining together, sharing everything that they had to make a difference. And I think those were the really good times because people really cared. The church is a very, very strong foundation in the Black community, and you really can't get away from that. You really can't get away from that. We were taught and we were reared in the church, and getting up and going to Sunday school every Sunday was very exciting to my sister and I. Seeing our Sunday school teacher, being able to come back and say, Mom, this is what we did in Sunday school today. This is what we learned. This is what we talked about. And then they had other additional activities that as young people you could get involved in. And some of the things that were done in the past, I think, are gold mines that we could use for our children today. Because I think that this generation is somewhat off on a different aspect of living, or a different aspect of giving back. And I think the words, the inspirations, the motivations, the things that we were taught, and to be respectful, to mind your elders, to be kind to one another, to help one another, to not turn your back on one another. Those are some of the things that I feel that we can, instill in our young people today. We were taught to go to school, do your very best, so that when you grow up, you can be successful, regardless of whatever you wanted to pursue, whether you wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. The motto was to do your very best and to learn as much as you could learn. And so that when you did become an adult, that you could be successful in whatever you decided that you wanted to pursue. How do we change the negative? How do we reinforce the positive? How do we put a smile on other people's face? And in my work, those are the things that I looked at. When I saw that people were inspired, I saw that spark of light in their eyes, and that alone just motivated me over and over the top. And people would faithfully come out as we stood in the street every Friday night, the cold, the rain, whatever. Drug dealers surrounded. Dangerous, yes, very dangerous. You were coming against something and people who were saying, we want to come in and we want to invade and disrupt your property where you live. In other words, you're basically bringing poison to a community. So how do you expect those individuals in that community to then be productive, to then be successful, if you're bringing something that's detrimental to them? So for people to say, we had enough, we will not accept this. We don't live in an affluent community. We don't live in a gated community. we don't live in a community whereby that we have a say-so over what happens to us. But somehow, some way, they decided, you know what? We may not have much, but we have decided that we want to make a difference in where we live. And I think that in itself identifies the wholesomeness and the sincerity of the people who dwelt in that community. One of the things that, over through the years, when you look at public housing, that I really want to say, and I've said it at many presentations before City Council, I've said it to individual councilmen, I've said it to my friends, I've said it to my family members, and that is, they're no different. Some people or society or stereotypes have indicated, that the people that are low income or live in public housing, they're different. They're not. They're not. They're human beings with a mind, with a soul and a body who want, inspire everything like other people want and inspire. Judge not by where someone lives, nor by what they have. You see people walking around every day who have the appearance of being homeless. And you found out and you've read, and it's been on national TV, that those people were rich. So how do you judge by the outer? How do you judge by what someone has on? How do you judge by how someone speaks? How do you do that? How do you say within your mind, or how do you develop a prejudice against one race of people or one nationality of people or one group of people? How do you develop that? How do you teach your children that? How do you say that I don't deserve to sit at the table that you sat at? How do you say that when God created us all? And that is the message that I would live or give to others. How do you form a prejudice against a group of people, or against a community, or against a issue whereby you really aren't familiar and you really don't know? How can you judge if you've never walked in my shoes? How can you say the little child who has to sit home every evening because their mom has to work because they can't afford to get someone to watch him or her, how do you say that that person doesn't grow up to be the president of the United States? How? How do you form prejudice? How do you dislike? How do you hate? What makes you determine if I'm a good person or I'm a bad person? Is it based on how I look? Is it based on how I talk? Is it based on my emotions? Is it based on my eye contact with you? Is it based on my outer? Is it based on how my hair looks? Because I wear my hair a certain way, because I dress a certain way, does that tell you who I really am? No, it doesn't tell you who I really am. It just tells you how you may see me at that time. But do you really know who I am as a person? No, you don't. You would only know that after you've had the time to talk with me, after you've had the time to be around me, after you've had the time to talk to other people perhaps that may know me, after you have seen me interacting. Because who are we? Who are we to judge? Who are we to form an opinion? Who are we? What is it that you have to give? What is it? And then let me rephrase that. What would you be willing to give? I think the Living Legends project is important because it provides you with I would say, a kaleidoscope of various individuals who have provided a very positive or instrumental work in the city that shows you or gives you an example of how you can be a productive in a community such as Alexandria, and how you can reach out to others in whatever capacity and whatever volunteer capacity that you have elected to operate in, and that you have demonstrated strength, stability, confidence, and one which I think is very important, the need to really care about others. What I would tell someone who never heard about the Living Legends is that the Living Legends is an organization based here in Alexandria who reaches out and researches and highlights individuals who've made a commendable service to the city of Alexandria. I think it is a wonderful base organization who provides the highlights to individuals who somehow may not have received the highlights or accolades that they really deserve for what they've done in the city. What did I feel when I felt I was going to be part of the Living Legends? I was ecstatic. I knew that there were over 20 nominees. I was just in awe when I received the letter saying that I had been selected. I've done a lot of work in the city, 90, well, all really 100% of which I've never been paid. And I have enjoyed all of it. I have no regrets. I am so excited about the fact that I was able to give back to the city in which I live in and to give to others.